Hey everybody, welcome to your readings for the week, and we're getting some extra love from Emrys before we get started. I'm sure that all of this extra snuggy time is for you guys. You probably can't even hear me because I did not move my microphone like very bad girl. Okay, hopefully that's better. Anyways, I don't know if you can hear that, but he's giving us a little bit of extra energy before we start our readings, which I think is really, really cool of him to do. And he's cute, and everybody wants to look at him. Okay, so these are our readings for the week ending July 30th, our last full week of July, and then we move into August next week. Kind of crazy. And I'm going to do the readings a little bit different this week and try something out and see how that works. So I actually have the charts up for next week, giving myself a bit more of a refresher of the horoscopes for the week, because I do record the horoscopes ahead of time as much as I can. So it's kind of weird doing that because I feel like I'm almost always a week ahead or 2 weeks ahead or something like that. It's kind of a weird feeling. Anyways, we are going to start with Jordan, our lonely ram right now. Only because she's the only one that's on the list right now. So we have Jupiter in Aries, and Aries focus is very much on your daily schedule. And Jupiter is not quite retrograde at the beginning of the week, but it does turn retrograde this week. So with that being said, Jupiter is all about like growth and expansion and having goals and trying to move forward and achieve your goals and things like that. And when Jupiter goes retrograde, that really tends to feel like it's slowing down, if that makes sense. You hit more roadblocks. It sort of feels like you're moving backwards in some cases. It's just a little bit kind of a frustrating feeling. And Jupiter is going to be retrograde into September, I do believe. So it's a couple of months of a bit of a challenge there for you. The good news and the bad news is there are some planets that Jupiter is aspecting with, mostly in a good way. There are a couple of challenges, but mainly what I'm sort of feeling is going to be coming up this week, and I feel like this is something that comes up a lot, is how to manage your schedule between the work that you do, the work that you want to do, your hobbies, and your family. And it's summertime, so you guys have had vacations in on there. I see maybe even another one that's coming up before the summer's out. So it's a lot of work. And you have a lot of energy to put into it, which is good, but I kind of get the feeling like maybe you need a day or so to just not have a bunch of stuff to do, because you don't want to burn yourself out. And I feel like, even though you don't like to sit still, you really need something like that. The other thing is about your schedule in terms of work. I really feel like because you have a break in, going here and there, is a good time to sit down and really take a look at your schedule and really see in that the best way to be able to get things done in all avenues of your life, if that makes sense. So it really, for me personally, I have to have a calendar. I have to have something that tells me everything that I need to do that week in order to stick with it and not be quite so willy-nilly over here and over there and blah blah blah. It really is helpful. So I kind of see that you're sort of doing something like that. If you could, continue with that, and it would make it a lot easier. I say stick to it, but you always have to leave room for um, flexibility and things changing. And I've kind of learned over the past few years with Dave working with you guys that things change all the time, and that's something that really aggravates the heck out of me, and even in some cases makes me unmotivated, because it's like, why schedule anything if it's going to change? But I've also learned that you need flexibility in life, and you need to be able to reorganize things at the last minute as much as possible, and in some cases let some things go if there just isn't any room for it, which is really frustrating and annoying when you have to do that. But it doesn't mean that you let it go forever either. It just means that you have to postpone it until later. So um that's basically what I have for you. I do just want to add one thing that's sort of kind of coming up really quick, and that is um okay. Sorry, let me get some coffee before I do this one. Whew, okay. um with the let's give me the words to use. Okay, this is your grandma, by the way. I want to roll myself up in her energy. It's so warm. And she's saying, okay, it's something along the lines of, she's actually telling me this too. It's sort of a message that we can both take, I think. She's saying that there are easier ways to navigate the change without getting angry and fighting against it. And I believe that fighting includes fighting with the source of the change. So in this case, our husbands. Okay. Because they really don't have control over it. I mean, it is what it is. I feel like you're more open to it in some cases than I am, because you've been dealing with it longer, but I still see the same frustration. So anyways, Jordan, that is what I have for you. And I'm going to move on to Darcy. Hey, Darcy. Let's talk about Taurus. Actually, whoa, Nilly. Okay, there's been a lot of stuff going on with Uranus in Taurus, and Mars moving into conjunction with Uranus and Taurus. We'll be in full conjunction next week. Uranus in a square with Saturn, which is in Aquarius, which is my sign. So basically, when you have a square, you have two planets that are in the same mode, or maybe three planets that are in the same mode. Okay. Or it can be up to four. This is a challenge. It's not a huge challenge, but it has been a challenge for both signs in many cases, because it has a very interesting placement here. Because Saturn is the planet of responsibility and strict, not changing things, and it's sort of kind of the planet that represents I can't think of the word. I'm so sorry. Not so much adulthood, but those in charge in many ways. In a sign like Aquarius, which is rebellious and quirky and totally going against everything that is tradition, even if it's a fixed sign and doesn't like change. I think it's one of those things where Aquarius loves change as long as it's, our idea, I guess, for lack of a better word. Um, and then you have Uranus, which is Aquarius's planet, quirky, rebellious, going against the grain, in Taurus, which is an earth sign, which is more about feet on the ground, and being the fixed earth sign is absolutely all about sticking to the same way we've always done this because it works for us. So they're like opposite each other, and it really feels like it fuels this sort of inner fight against change, but needing change at the same time because things are not going to progress if they don't change. So if you've been feeling that at all, that's where that's coming from. And it's only about to get worse this week as the Sun and Mercury move into Leo, which is the fire fixed sign. And this is going to create what's called a T-square, which is two squares and an opposition. Now we have like this big triangle of, right now, this week, 3 planets that are challenging each other. The week, or next week, I should say, this becomes a much bigger challenge when Mars moves in and the moon moves into Scorpio, which is the 4th fixed sign, and it becomes a grand cross, and a fixed grand cross to boot. So we're talking a lot of energy towards you can't do anything at all. And that is so frustrating. Like to me, I can only interpret that as you feel like your hands are tied behind your back and there's nothing you can do about a situation. And we've dealt with this kind of thing, with people where we see people around other people that we're like, we know this is a bad person for you, but there's no way that you're going to listen to me. Or work situations that are changing in a way you don't want to, different things like that. So it's going to be a little bit rough for a couple of weeks. But a Taurus client actually reminded me yesterday on the phone when I was talking to her. She's going through a lot of interviews for different jobs currently right now, and there was a couple of them that we talked about that she just absolutely loved. And I was saying, with all of these astrological things coming up, it's creating such a challenge, but sometimes the challenge is something that's absolutely amazing, right? Because she's talking about leveling up professionally in a way that she really hasn't entertained up until now. So it's a really good thing, but this is the challenge. And so it reminded me that challenges really are not always bad things. Sometimes it's just a big thing you have to get through to get to the next level. And I really feel that this is where you're at right now, specifically because Taurus's focus is on growth and change, but also in some cases represents finances. So I kind of feel like you're going through this physical change, but or in terms of your own way of doing things in your life, but also directed at your finances as well. I mean, it's almost like, I don't even know how to say this. It's almost like you woke up one morning and just said, that's it, I'm done. We're gonna stop doing everything that we've been doing, and we're gonna do it completely different. We're just gonna change everything. Just be careful that you don't get too ahead of yourself. You might trip yourself up, and you don't want to do that. Number one, and number two, gradual changes, not too slow gradual changes, but gradual changes as you change things, add things on weekly, actually work out a little bit better because you wind up being more successful that way. You're turning these changes into habits, which you'll automatically do. So those are a couple of things that I can give you that might make it a little bit easier. One last thing about that, and your grandfather is here. and he's standing like this, and he's tapping his foot, and he keeps on looking at his watch. And I want to say that he's been waiting for you to do something specific, and that when I say he's been waiting for you to do something specific, I feel like there's something that you need to do, and he's trying to say, you know, when you're going to do it, or hey, it's about time, or you're not getting any younger, or something like that, in a very sarcastic way, but laughing at the same time. So I'm sure you understand what where that's coming from. So that's what I have for you, Darcy. And I'm gonna move on to Connie. Hi, Connie. Oh, you're going to the doctor this week. That's right. We did discuss this. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. Let's just talk about what's going on first of all. I mean, we'll get a bigger picture here of what's going on and how this is going to affect you here. So we have Mercury and the sun moving into Leo. And actually, Mercury's already been in Leo. The sun is sort of chasing after him. Mercury is going to move into an opposition with Saturn and a square with Uranus, and Mars is actually going to join that later on this week. So this actually astrologically creates a really big challenge. It's going to be an even bigger challenge next week for about a day or two when the moon moves into Scorpio. And this grand cross is what it's called, happens when there is a planet within a certain degree of each other in every single sign of that mode, which in this case is fixed signs, because we are all fixed signs. That being said, don't want to bore you with too many more details. But that being said, this is a major challenge. When you're talking about fixed signs having challenges like these, it feels like nothing is happening. And it's interesting that we just talked about yesterday feeling like you weren't progressing in your healing, if that makes sense. And the fact that you're going to the doctor this week, I'm not saying may confirm that, but it may make you feel like it's taking, much longer to progress, if that makes any sense at all. And I am concerned about you beating yourself up over that. It's kind of a waste of energy. That's the best thing that I can say about it right now, is that it is very much a waste of energy. You don't want to do it. The challenge, or let's get back to that challenge with the T-square. The parts of your life that it really affects are your career. Oddly enough, you're stuck at home. Those you love to a certain extent, as well as income or finances. The those you love part there, because Saturn is really influencing this part of the aspect, and it's retrograde. Saturn in retrograde a lot of times will show me things like what I am responsible for versus what I am not responsible for. And so this kind of I kind of draw from this, especially after our conversation that we had yesterday about your dad possibly needing to have surgery, and you are recovering from surgery, that there may be some things coming up about how, phone calls from some people, we'll just say, kind of making you feel like you should be doing something about this again. Okay. Um, and this the challenge is the thing that it brings up, really, right? And challenges can be good. Sometimes it's about being challenged to go to the next level. And oftentimes all the challenges really are about going to the next level, regardless of which level it is that you're going for. It's so good. But the actual act of this happening is the challenge. Saturn's retrograde says, is this really your responsibility right now? And while I would normally get that, yes, this is your dad, you're recovering as well. And there isn't literally anything that you can do about that at all. So the only thing that you can say is, I'm sorry. As soon as I can, I will help out if I can, kind of a thing. I feel like his surgery is not going to be put off for a long time, so it is going to sort of feel like back-to-back surgeries in your family, which is going to cause some stress there a little bit. In terms of career and finances, this is again something that we talked about, and I feel is going to be exploring more next week as you get towards going to that doctor appointment. Anyways, that the work is stacking up and the potential money is stacking up, and that is really could be a worry for you. And especially as we get into the middle of the Wednesday, Thursday, the moon moves in to join this whole thing, and Mars moves in to join this whole thing. These are all very emotional planets. So as you're getting closer to that doctor appointment, maybe even going to that doctor appointment, you may be having to go through your work calling and saying, hey, we're really stacking up here. You sure you can't just like get your butt out of bed and come on, blah, 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 this and that. You're feeling the heat. Okay. That doesn't mean that you have to jump when they say that they want you to jump. In fact, if you do, you're telling them that you're going to jump every single time, and you definitely don't want to do that. So yeah, it's going to make you worry and feel like you're never going to have any work ever again when this happens, but they really can't do that to you. Legally, they really can't do that to you. You have the right to recover, regardless of what kind of thing it is. So it's this, I gather, a lot of feeling like people are forcing you to hurry up and get up and heal around you, which is amplifying your own feeling that you need to get up and heal and move on with your life, kind of a thing, which is going to be tricky. The way to sort of wade through that, funny thing, last night I had this vision of Frankie. She's going to come back and she's going to tell me, because I was literally laughing. I was literally laying there falling asleep, and then boom, here she came. She's sitting on a wall with pigtails, eating a big old lollipop, like the old school twirly ones. And she's wearing this big, I mean, it's like Raggedy Ann or something like that. She's wearing this big blue frilly dress. It's like the it's like I've seen it on TV, okay, a long time ago. And she's swinging her legs back and forth. And she's like, when you, first of all, she said that her inner child and your inner child should get together because they could have tons of fun. Second of all, she's saying just play with it. And I think what she means about that is in the situation that you find yourself in currently right now, and as things start to heat up and explode around you, you could find it frustrating, but it is absolutely hilarious when you think about it, because, well, just because, you know why, because I don't have to say, and I'm not going to say, but you know why. It's absolutely hilarious. So I think where she's going with this is, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Have some fun with it if you can, because it just makes so much sense that the timing would happen in the way that it does. As annoying as that is also, this is a kind of a deep inner child thing for you, in terms of, you know, not being able to just deal with what you need to deal with because everybody else's needs come first, kind of a thing. So I guess what Frankie's saying is, the funny part is, of course this is happening. How ironic that this is happening right now. And rather than focusing on the fact that it is a wound, it is an inner child wound. And have some time with your inner child. And Frankie's, it's a lot of fun. Her inner child is a lot of fun. She definitely wants you to do that. Oh, my coffee is good. Okay, so that's what I have for you, Connie. And I am going to move on to Jenny. Hi, Jenny. Okay, so let's just talk about these horoscopes here for a minute. As the Sun and Mercury move into Leo, and the Moon moves into Leo Thursday, Friday, Mercury moves into this great big challenge with Saturn, Uranus, and Mars. And on Thursday, when the Moon moves into conjunction with Mercury, it joins this aspect also. So this challenge, so to speak. So you have this emotional Moon in this challenge. And then of course you have Mars in there too, which can be a very aggressive influence. Not saying that the other influences aren't annoying in their own way, let's just put it, but those ones in particular may make it a very difficult challenge. The aspects of your life that it's pointing to are your career, those you love, and finances, the big ones, really, in many ways. Especially for us women, that those are always our main focuses, right? You know, how do we make that money? What do we do with the money? And taking care of those that we love, kind of a thing. Saturn's influence in this is really interesting because it's retrograde, and Saturn retrogrades to me mean taking a look at what is your responsibility and what isn't. And I kind of feel like, and with school starting pretty soon in the next few weeks, I kind of feel like this is one of those heartbreaking moments actually for you, where it's not so much that you're teaching your girls what they need to be responsible for. I think you've already done that. This is more watching them do that and not having as much to do, if that makes sense. And I kind of feel sad for you, because I know, I totally know how you feel. I've been there. It's a very proud and very bitter and sad moment, I guess. because you just keep watching those steps, and those steps go right out the door and into the big wide world eventually. But it's beautiful. As far as the other parts of this challenge, in terms of career and finances, Mars and Uranus are in a conjunction right now in Taurus, and that's actually the peak of this challenge, really. Mars has a very aggressive energy, and that kind of energy going into finances um, is awesome, honestly, because in terms of financial growth, it's spectacular. So I am seeing in some cases the word investments is coming up for you, but with that pairing with Uranus is all about going against the grain. It's all about doing things differently. It's bunk tradition, change it, make it new, kind of a thing. You can actually almost look at Saturn and Uranus as the Republican Party and the Democratic Party fighting with each other. And they have been kind of for months. And Mercury just comes in to shake this all up and make it a bigger fight, kind of a thing. I just got that right now. It's actually kind of funny. So in terms of whether you're making investments or in terms of how you're managing your money right now, I really feel like there are some ways of doing that that are coming up right now, that are a little bit out of the box and a little bit risky even. And so I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. I am saying that well, let's put it this way. Make sure you know your facts before you do it. And take a risk, but do it safely. That's what's coming to me. In terms of what Leo's focus is, it's on career, and the sun, the moon, Mercury, all taking their turns inside of this challenge. The sun won't really take its turn until next week. And this is going to be a much bigger challenge next week, actually, when the moon moves into Scorpio and it creates two of these, which is called a grand cross. Luckily, only for a day, because too much of that, you don't want too much of that, especially in fixed signs. It really feels like nothing is changing, nothing is happening. You're moving towards these, trying to do these things, and it's just not working. The sun's house is where you shine in your career. And so with the sun's influence being in your career right now, this is an opportunity for you to show off your stuff and shine. And the sun's trine with Jupiter, right before Jupiter goes retrograde, is actually an amazing, helpful influence in terms of time management in your schedule. So when you feel like you're trying to juggle between your personal life and your career, and there are instances that I kind of feel popping up with surprise clients or surprise appointments that you didn't have in there before. I let me start over again. I feel like that it's going to be frustrating, but I also feel like you're really good at navigating and managing the frustration. And because of that, you can make that challenge bigger or smaller than you want. Okay. So you have the ability to manage how that goes. Okay. So with that being said, This challenge is going to continue for a few weeks, and it's going to pretty much remain in the same places that it's focused on. It may change just a little bit towards the end there, but it will be for a few weeks until we move out of Leo season and the sun moves into Virgo. And luckily it'll break up then just in time for a Mercury retrograde, but you know. One last thing. There's a lady in spirit, and she has a lot of gold or yellow or something like that around her. It's so bright. It's just this ridiculously bright light. And she's only showing her face. I don't even think this is, I mean, I almost want to say that this is like, I almost want to say this is like like I've seen this face somewhere in a gold carving or something. I don't know. I feel like this is it's a woman, and I get Egyptian, like she's a guide of yours, but I keep getting Ra, and I swear he's the sun god. That would make sense, but I swear that he was he. Maybe it is he, and and I just can't tell. It's so hot. But there is something about being out in the sun for you. Um, it's like the sun on your face. I totally get it. I love it. Out here in the Bay, I love it. The sun in your face. He's pointing to your third eye. He's saying it's been open lately. You've been seeing things and hearing things, whispers. Keep listening. He says, keep listening. That gave me almost a headache. It was so bright. We're gonna have to explore with him later. That's wow, he's a pretty powerful guy. I don't think I've ever met him before. Wow, okay. That's what I have for you, Jenny. Whew, okay. And I'm gonna move on to Linda, our newbie Linda. Hi, Linda. Okay. Let's talk about Virgo. Nothing in Virgo right now. No planets in Virgo until Friday, Saturday. The moon moves into Virgo. As the moon is moving into Virgo Friday and Saturday, um, the moon is in conjunction with Mercury, which is in Leo, about to go into Virgo, and we know in a month or so about to go into retrograde. But as the moon is moving into your sign and is pulling away from Mercury, you're going to feel a tinge of this challenge that Mercury is in with a few other planets. It's called a T square. And it's just, I kind of feel like the way that that's going to play out for you is the beginning of the week is great and everything seems to be moving smoothly and running smoothly. And as you get towards the end of the week, it all just goes and falls apart, kind of. Not really completely falls apart, but you know what I mean. It went from a well-oiled machine to we need a new gear already, kind of a thing. So that might be a little bit of a challenge, a little bit difficult. The other thing is that right now the focus is on what's called the secret closet. And so that usually represents the really deep, ooey gooey emotional stuff that we keep stuff down there. We don't even talk about, right? And I do feel like you've worked through a lot of your stuff. But we always still have a little bit in there. And unfortunately, pardon me, and I think we talked about this recently. Unfortunately, how that plays out is different things come up, like if you were women. So if you've ever been in a situation where you felt like you weren't listened to, you were unheard, and that, there's a root in that stuff that's in the closet, then that will start to kind of sort of pop up a lot. I'll notice myself personally that that's usually when I deal with a lot of different people that are talking over me while I'm trying to talk, which I just want to start hitting when that happens. But of course you can't do that. So I do see that playing out a little bit. We're starting to move out of that, and we've got a couple more weeks, and then you're going to start to have planets actually coming in and out of your sign again. I also want to say, they're showing me your eyes, as in like your eyes are getting blurry, and it's from spending too much time in front of your computer, if that makes sense. And I think this is already starting to come up. You need to give your eyes breaks. It's not good for them. Okay. And also, I'm being told to tell you that blurriness, at the end of the day, is a sign that it's time for you to stop. Okay. That's your sign that it's time to sign off. And I kind of see sometimes you do that and sometimes you don't, and I get it. Again, I really see the beginning of the week being just, it's almost like you're like on the phone, check. Okay, on the phone, check. Okay, on the phone, that's all done. Great. Yay, check. It's like everything is like super smooth. And then towards the end of the week, it all just sort of gets a little bit wonky there for a minute. And then as you get into the next week, it'll sort of quiet back down again. But I think we always have this expectation of things are running smoothly. So that means that it's going to keep doing it. And we should know better, right? We should totally know better. Because the world is just not up to our standards, Linda. It's just unfortunately how it is. I don't see anything big or any kind of issues coming up this week other than towards the end of the week. And it's not really a big issue. It's more of a pain in the ass more than anything. So I think that's what I have for you. And I am going to actually take a quick break and pause and then come back to Teresa. So I am going to do that really quick. Okay, we're back. And we're going to go to Teresa Demarco. Listen. I hope you can hear that. That's for you this week. Oops. Because you need a little purse and a little loves and a little cuteness. Everybody needs a little cuteness, right? Okay. Well, we don't really have a lot going on in Libra, actually. In terms of the horoscopes, there is no planets coming in. Moon's not making it in this week, so that's good. Nothing needs to be amplified anyways. Next week, you will have the moon coming in, so emotional amplification is kind of there. It's really no surprise though. I mean, the timing is pretty coincidental, we'll just say. Focus is on self this week. There is an element of the past coming up. There's an element of some inner child things coming up, which I totally would not be surprised about, due to the situation and how the situation is. I know it's going to be a lot to get things to get through things. And this particular period almost feels like, you've reached the peak and now it's like what to do kind of a thing. It's almost like you're hanging there with nothing to do kind of a thing. And I think that's where self-care is really important. It doesn't change the situation, unfortunately. I mean, I really wish I could change the situation. It doesn't do that. What does help though is, because of the situation that you've been through and because we're on the other side of the closure, so to speak, doing these things specifically for yourself, to pamper yourself, it doesn't change anything, but it does make you feel better in some ways. And so I just want to say that this week really should be a week about you giving yourself absolutely everything that you want to give yourself, regardless of what it is, regardless of your diet. I mean, obviously don't eat anything that's going to hurt you if you have those diet restrictions, but I'm talking about being on a diet and watching what you eat. If you want a big greasy hamburger, get a big greasy hamburger, is what I'm saying. And do things to spoil yourself. If you see something that pops up that is just so, I feel like my son put this there for me, then get it. Or it's just something that's there that it so resonates with you right now, then get it. if you feel pulled to do that. And don't even feel guilty about it. You're a Libra. You don't feel guilty about shopping and buying yourself stuff anyways. What am I talking about? And relax. Emrys says relax, and as much as you can. Cuddle with your doggy. Your son says get a massage. It would release some of your tension. I feel like you've been bouncing that back and forth, but haven't really done it yet. And he wants you to know that everything was just perfect, he says. Perfect. I'm even feeling him around you. I feel it especially around the shoulders. He misses you too. Very much. That is what I have for you, Teresa. And I need to possibly pause really quick here. Okay, some people showed up, but hopefully they will speak. Am I quiet? Okay, moving on to Regina. Not a whole lot going on in Scorpio this week. No planets, anyways, which is good because next week the moon moves into Scorpio, and well, it's going to be a little bit of a humdinger. So let's just leave that in next week, shall we, and not worry about that right this minute. Focus is on the past, but focus is very much on you also, and I sort of interpret that cusp to mean, in some cases, it's about revisiting where you've been that got you to this place that the person that you are now. But also, there's an element of looking back on your past achievements, very much so in this as well. And I feel like right now is a really important time for you to actually take the time to do that, because a lot of times we don't necessarily focus on our achievements. We focus on our failures. We focus on the mistakes that we made and the things that we should have done and the things that we should have said, and wow. It's really a distraction from your healing process or even your growth process, if that makes sense. So I think that, or at least I feel that you may be in a place mentally and emotionally also where you need to do that, because it will sort of help to it'll sort of help to flip that, if that makes sense. And so to help you climb out of that, sort of an emotional rut, I think, if that makes sense. And I feel like it's funny that the emotional rut, because I feel like it's also a physical rut as well. And Scorpios are also fixed signs. I feel like, in terms of fixed signs, we need a routine. Because it's like the lack of a routine is like a lack of direction, is like nothing ever gets done, kind of a thing. So we need a routine in order to stay motivated in some ways, but that routine becomes a drag also. It's like it almost is like it gets to the point where it's sucking the life out of you, and you just can't take it anymore. Huh. She's such a beautiful face. So I think that it's also a good time to just incorporate some new things into your day-to-day schedule. It doesn't take much. Driving a different way home, it makes a world of difference. It also heightens your anxiety sometimes because you're not used to it, but I think in some cases that's necessary also. Not necessarily heightening your anxiety, but your anxiety doesn't get heightened if you're not out of your comfort zone either. And so, that's kind of a big thing too. You have to step out of your comfort zone every now and then in order to grow or move forward or make any kind of change at all. And I really feel like making a change is something that's on your mind a lot. In some cases, I'm hearing you saying, I want to make a change, I just don't know how. And I think that that's a little bit baloney because I think you do know how. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think you do. I think it's just, doing it is a big step. And once you take that step, it's like, oh my God, what happens afterwards? And fixed signs are motivated by, I have to know what's going to happen. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. And of course, we're not supposed to know. We're supposed to do it and find out. So it's so much easier when we're young. And as we get older, every year that we get older, it just makes it more difficult. I'm not calling you old right now. What I am saying is that I go through the same thing. As I get older, it gets harder and harder and harder to do this. So I really feel that that's what your focus is this week, and really just taking the time to say, okay, I'm gonna rip this band-aid off and I'm gonna make a few changes and then just kind of shake things up a bit and see what happens. I'm not saying change your whole life and quit your job and put your life in jeopardy or anything like that, but those little changes really kind of help you to be able to move towards the bigger ones, if that makes sense. There's this lady coming through in spirit for you. And it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, actually. She's wearing the Dutch dancing outfits with the big skirt and the weird wooden shoes and the hair, like Pippi Longstocking almost. And she's just kind of sort of dancing around. When I say it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, I mean, it's just sort of funny. I don't think that she was Dutch. I mean, maybe she was, but I don't think that that's what she's trying to say with the outfit. I just feel like whoever this woman is, she was never afraid to make you laugh and didn't it, no matter what she had to do it. And so that's part of it. And the other part of it is that I feel like she did everything. Like if she was like, oh, I want to try this, she would go do it, kind of a thing. She wouldn't think about it. She wouldn't think if it looked stupid or anything like that. She'd just go and she'd do it. And she'd enjoy the hell out of it when she did. And I feel like she's sort of pushing you in that direction right now to just sort of get out and spread your wings again and try something new. She says, you're never too old to try something new. And I feel like as fixed signs, we tend to get old before our time. I'm only 45 and I find myself going, oh my God, I'm like so stiff and I feel so old. I feel 90 right now, and I feel like when you get to that point where you're calling attention to it a lot, that's when you start to die inside because you're not doing anything. And this lady is very adamant that you don't want that to happen. You have to keep going. You have to keep you have to keep making changes and doing new things, so that you can continue to live and grow and have a good time, I think. So in any case, that's a great way for her to to deliver the message, a very entertaining way, which I really appreciate. But that's what I have for you. And I am going to pause really quick and put the skitty down. Okay, so we've got Teresa Shepard next. Okay. Not a whole lot going on astrologically this week. Focus is on the past, but on self at the same time. I actually, for you, what I gather from that is a lot of this has to do with your mom. Your mom is on your mind a lot, pretty much all the time that you're not working. And it's almost like a flooding of different memories, if that makes sense. Kind of sort of constantly. And part of it is very, part of it you love, and part of it is almost like it's for lack of a better way of saying it, it's just, it's too much, if that makes sense. It's almost like it's good, you can't get away from it, kind of a thing. Which is tough. I know you worry about her a lot. The man she loves, I think you said his name is Jack. I can't, or that's the only name that's coming up. It's like he's sitting on her bed with his arm around her, just making her comfortable and taking care of her, and it's so sweet. I, I feel like you'll know when it gets closer, because it's almost like he's there. It's almost like she can see him. It's almost like she could talk to him. Maybe even she'll talk about him a lot, I guess, if that makes sense. Because he's like very close around her right now. In a way, it's kind of sweet because I feel like he's excited to have her back. It's really cute. Okay. In terms of where your mind wanders, I guess, the best thing that or the best advice I can give about that is just to, I think that happens and we're not really aware of it. And we sort of force ourselves to continue to be not aware of it instead of making ourselves aware of it and then saying, okay, I want to focus on something else. Let me move my mind's focus to what I have to do tomorrow, or something like that. And I see this coming up a lot more, like when you're on the plane, when you don't have really anything to do, but kind of let your mind wander a little bit. Also, one thing that is really helpful for me is when I have somebody popping in my head that I'm worried about a lot, and there's really nothing I can do for them, one of the things that I do is I just send them love, or I send them healing, or I send them calming, or I send them whatever kind of energy I feel that I need to send them in that moment. And that actually it's very helpful for me because it gives me something to do, because I have to have something to do. And it's that feeling of I can't do anything that makes me crazy, if that makes sense. So feel free to use that and be pulled to do it however you want to do it. There is no right way or wrong way to send energy, as long as you're sending it with love, and which of course you're going to do with your mother, but as long as you're sending it with love. Believe it or not, even if you absolutely hate somebody's guts, um you still have to send energy with love. You're not really allowed to send anything else, and that's, like, I think one of the hardest things for me to do. I oftentimes will ask my guides to do it on my behalf because I'm too chicken shit, to be honest with you. But and this is, of course, this isn't the case. So that's something that you can do, that it also kind of takes you out of the mulling over and over and over, and gives you something to do that is helpful in some way. And it does work. She will receive the energy and get whatever it is that you're sending, whether she realizes that she is or not. I actually am seeing, I'm not seeing a week that's like ridiculously busy. It's almost like I'm seeing only 3 flights, if that makes sense, maybe 3 or 4 or something like that. So not a lot of I, almost like more travel than work, if that makes sense, in a way, or at least it's going to feel like that. But I don't see any issues this week, so I think you're still in luck there. Any issues or major delays or anything like that. So that's good, and we'll give you some things to do to kind of take away from that mulling a little bit. So that is what I have for you, Teresa, and I'm going to move on to Amanda. Oh my God, literally first thing I see is okay. You okay, you get your nukes up. I'm gonna move out of the way. Okay. I'm gonna move out of the way and just see how this plays out. Um hmm. So let's unpack that, shall we? Sagittarius, not a whole lot going on in Sagittarius. We're going to start there. No planets or anything going on in Sagittarius. Focus is still on the mind and how you think. And I feel like this defensive stance that we're seeing here could have something to do with, well, let's just say you don't want what you're thinking to blow things out of proportion, if that makes sense. But I do feel I'm just gonna say I do feel a fight coming on this week. And so I obviously don't feel that it is a physical, you're gonna fight the bitch, although you would. You could. I feel that this is more representing you defending yourself in some way, and I don't feel that this is actually coming from anybody in the family, as in you're defending your husband or your girls. I feel actually that this is more defending yourself and who you are and what you do, in a way, which, to be honest with you, is not something that any of us are ever going to get away from, to be honest with you. That's not how it works. I think we're always defending ourselves in some way, shape, or form. But again, I don't feel like, I mean, I feel like there is an element of somebody new who feels like they need to call you out on how you do things or the content or why you're doing it. But I also feel like you are defending yourself from somebody who, the only way I can say it is trying to take it from you, or it feels like they're trying to take it from you. And honestly, these two examples could be the same person, because a lot of times that's how they operate. So I just have to say about that, use your intuition. Mama Odie said you better call her, because she is going to back you up on this, and she is going to help you. And she says, do not allow yourself to fight by yourself. There's also an older lady in spirit. She has the sweetest mentality, the sweetest energy, and she's going, fight, 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 fight. And I'm just cracking up here. And she's showing herself as this really old lady. She almost reminds me of, I don't know what the actress's name is, but she's always that little old lady in various different movies. She was specifically, she was in The Wedding Singer. She was that little old lady that, you know, to the hip, to the hop, to the hip, hip hop. Yes, this is what this woman kind of reminds me of a little bit. And she's like, fight, 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 fight. So apparently, whatever this is that's going on, they all got your back. Call in your army. And I'm seeing like all these people just call in your army to deal with this. Don't do it alone this time, she's saying. Yeah, they're your defense, they're your defense team. And there's way more guides in there than I think I've ever seen around you, which I'm not surprised about, to be honest with you. And it's energetically, it's less about fight and more about defense, really. Usually. In this case for you, it's like, oh no, we are going to kick some ass. I don't know why. Okay. But I do know that whatever it is, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And quite possibly amused by the end of it. So that's what I have for you there, Amanda. And I'm going to move on to my good friend, Sheri. Okay. So, okay, I don't know why. I don't know why. All right. What the first thing that comes to my mind is okay. I think I know why. The first thing that comes to my mind is Adam Sandler, Waterboy. Mama said, mama said. As I say, I don't know why, but I think I do know why, actually, because focus astrologically is still on the mind and how you think. And I want to say that with all the things that you have going on right now, and as you're trying to organize all this stuff in your head, it's like it's almost an overload. It's like I visualize you with smoke coming out of your ears, and that your brain is that's why I'm getting but mama said because it's like almost like your brain is just like it's too much, Sheri. I know you have it written down. I think it comes to this, and I'm gonna actually use two different instances here. So one I've seen, okay, and that is like every time I've ever seen you're holding the money and you got the money, and at least 2 or 3 times a day I see you count out how much money you guys have, right? So that you know how much you need for this and how much you need for that, and you're on top of it the whole time. 2 or 3 times a day I've seen it. Okay, I feel like your schedule is kind of getting to that point too. So now you got these two things where you're constantly controlling the bejesus of it, and I think that it's getting to a point now where you're so uber not relaxed over it because you are afraid that if you relax, you're going to screw everything up. And that's not true. If you don't relax, you're going to have a heart attack. Okay. So I really feel that you need not so much, it's not so much about slowing down. I mean, obviously deal with what you got to deal with in the moment, but in between things, you don't need to be going through and I got to do this and I got to do that. I got to all the time. Okay. Several times a day. I feel like when you're having your rest time and you're doing that, you're not resting. And so consequently, it's just like, it's almost like anxiety or being on edge or something like that. Okay. This is not good for you. And mama is coming through and saying, this is not good for you, Sheri. You need to stop doing this. And the other thing that she is, I love you. I love you. I want you to know how much I love you. Stop trying to control everybody and everybody's schedules because they're not fitting into yours, she's saying. And she's also saying, you're going to look at this and go, I don't know what she's talking about. And she says, yes, you do know what I'm talking about. And I can hear you laughing. Your schedule is about what you need to do, unless they need help, period. Okay. With that being said, make sure you lay down those boundaries that we talked about. So you're not getting pulled into that every 5 minutes either. That will help too. When you rest, you need to rest. I'm not saying you can't play a game on your phone or, anything like that. But when you're constantly thinking about all the stuff that you got to do, the money that you have, where it needs to go, when the next is coming in, blah, 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 that's not resting. Okay. Your mind has to rest also. Every so often, Sheri, you have to turn it off and just get silence. It's the best thing in the world, by the way. You will grow to love it once you get used to it. I promise. That's what I have for you. And I'm going to move on to Peg. Hi, Peg. Mm. Okay. Seeing some together time with you and the hubby this week. Maybe a short road trip together, something like that. Um, it's almost like there's a little bit more than there usually is. Not that you're lacking in time, or anything like that, but I do feel like there's sort of more time, more togetherness this week than usual, which is not a bad thing. I'm not trying to insinuate that it is a bad thing, because it's not. It's very much a good thing. I do think that sometimes couples start to get annoyed with each other. They spend too much time together. I think that's normal for everybody. But I also feel like you guys have a lot of fun together. And so, even though there are moments of annoyance, I think there's more fun than there is anything else. So that's really good. I really feel that this is something the two of you need. It's an out of the ordinary, little adventure kind of a thing. If that makes sense. In terms of astrology, there's not a whole lot going on in Sagittarius currently right now. The moon will move in about next week ish or so, next week, the week after. Until then, not a whole lot. Focus is still on the mind and how you think. And I am seeing what's playing out with this actually to me is some ideas. I feel like you have some ideas coming up of some new things that you want to do. Maybe not really knowing how you want to do that yet or how to approach that yet, but these are like starter seeds, I guess, for plants that you don't know what exactly they're going to look like by the time they're done, if that makes sense. You know what you want to do. You know what the end result is, not quite 100% sure on how to get there yet. Do your research, you'll find it, you'll come across it. I know you will. You always do, kind of a thing. I am gonna say write these ideas down. Um, and and dream board is coming up for you also. I'm not sure if that means that you need to make one or update one that you've already made or put it up because you need the focus. You need to focus on it. But I will also say, in terms of new ideas, I would definitely write them down. Not necessarily because you'll forget them, but you may, like you may remember three of them and forget one, or something like that. You stand a better chance of remembering it the way you wanted to start it while you're doing your research to figure out how to get there, if that makes sense. And to make sure that you don't veer off of the original idea too much into something completely different, which is fine, but you also want to honor where you started off as well, I think is where I'm going with that. um it's just weird, so I'm just going to put it out there. I really feel like it's almost like, God, I just want to go shopping. I need new clothes. um, I think you should, honestly. I kind of feel like, and this is, quite possibly because the finances the way they are, of course, but I feel like you're one that tends to see something and want to buy it and then talk yourself out of it because the money could be used somewhere else and blah blah blah. And um but I really feel pulled that, sorry about that. Obviously you need to go shopping. I really feel pulled that if there is something that you see that you're really pulled to get, you should. There's just something about it that it's like changing the energy, in terms of what you're doing. And when you look great and you feel great, that just puts the right kind of energy into it. Not saying that you don't look good, and that you don't feel good, but replenishing, your wardrobe. I mean, I went years without spending money on that also. And I missed it. So now I'm at that point of trying to let that go a little bit, even if it's in small increments. So if you really love that blouse, you should pick it up or whatever it is. So that's what I have for you. And texting my husband to let him know I'll call him back. Moving on to Mama Sheri. Have Mama Sheri. Okay, not a lot going on in Sagittarius this week. No planets anyway. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a great thing. It's not a bad thing. Currently right now there's some pretty heavy negative aspects going on, and because they're not coming from Sagittarius, that's good for you, right? I'm screwed, but you're okay. So that's all that matters, right? I'm not screwed, by the way. I'm just challenged. We'll put it that way. Focus is on the mind. And there's a little bit of focus on the past too, in terms of astrology this week. And so what I would take from that for you actually is, I do feel like a lot of times when you're by yourself, which I know is most of the time, your thoughts do tend to move backwards a little bit, remembering. It's not a bad thing. But I almost sort of feel like there's a part of you that really wants to move forward, that really wants to put your energy back into readings and teaching and working with people and helping people and such. And then there's a part of you that just keeps floating backwards. And that part of you that's floating backwards it almost feels like, I hate to say it this way, but this is the only way to say it. It almost feels like you don't deserve to have that. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is what I'm picking up from you, that you don't deserve to have that. Which is a lie that you tell yourself. And you gotta stop telling yourself that lie. The honest truth is that you went through something that was emotionally devastating, very difficult to get through. And now you just got to get back into it, preferably without the excuse bucket, because the excuse bucket is getting full. I hate talking to you like this, by the way. It's not my fault, just so you know. They're also showing me, I'm sorry, they're also tattling on you and showing me that you get back into it. And sometimes you get bites when you put it out there, and sometimes you don't. And it's those times when you don't, where you tell yourself, well, obviously I'm not meant to do this anymore. No, that's not what that means. You're not dishonoring anybody by doing what you were meant to do. And I'm going to leave that with that. What, you have ideas on what you want to do, different things that you would like to start doing. You don't exactly know how to do it. Find the people that know how to do it, and get it going. My dad said, don't let me kick you in the butt to get you in gear. And then I hear you go, do it and you're dead. And he thinks that's hilarious. Outside of that, I'm glad this week to hear that you have rain. And I do actually see next week a little bit more time able to go outside and be outside. And enjoy being outside. I feel that that's really necessary for you. And when it's really hot, that's it's difficult. So I am seeing that you have more of an opportunity to do that, which is good. Some outdoor meditation is good. Your sister Dottie, I think. She said more meditation so you guys can talk, she says. She wants to have conversations with you. She's on like a little bench patting the seat next to her. Come sit next to me and let's chit chat. So that's something for you to put on your schedule for this week if you choose to do so. So that is what I have for you, Sheri. And I am at Karina. Still have Neptune in Pisces this week. Neptune is retrograde. Neptune is all about the intuitive abilities, and in some cases can represent very, very, very deep emotional stuff, traumas, stuff like that. It is Pisces ruling planet. It has been in Pisces for a while now. With Neptune in Pisces, it does represent a time where a lot of people are tuning into and learning how to use their intuitive abilities. And I know that that's something that you have definitely been wanting to do yourself. Neptune is retrograde right now. And actually, unlike most retrogrades, this sort of heightens this intuition, if you will. So if you've been noticing lately that your intuition has become clearer or it seems stronger, it's not an accident at all. It has everything to do with Neptune right now. Focus is on your day-to-day activities, so your schedule. And Neptune is in a sextile with Pluto right now, and Pluto's focus is on the home. Pluto is also retrograde. When Pluto goes retrograde, Pluto is the planet of change and transformation and personal power in some cases. And when retrograde, it almost feels like it's very difficult to make changes. In some cases, either it feels it presents you with situations that no matter what you do, there's nothing you can do to change it. Even if you wanted to. It also, in some cases, makes you feel powerless over certain parts or certain situations that you're going through currently right now. on the negative side anyways. But on the positive, sometimes slowing the growth is what you need. In terms of, for instance, if you are wanting to level up in your career, to promote, but not quite ready yet, delays in them doing the interviews or delays in the position becoming available might actually work in your favor because you have the time to get yourself ready for that, if that makes sense. Pardon me. How I see this playing out for you is I want to say that family is everything. And I also want to say that when I say that, it surprises you a little bit, if that makes any sense at all. But I really get this feeling that this week, really your schedule revolves a lot around family, and that may be needing to be with family for certain things, needing to care for family members for certain things, or just the annual family picnic, right, where you're surrounded by family at that time. So I really feel that family comes up a lot here. Vespa is a secondary influence in Pisces currently right now, really influencing this house of love given, which represents those people that you're closest to in your family, or the people that you love the most. And Vespa is referred to as the eternal flame that always burns on the hearth. And we always look at the hearth as that comfortable place. I always sort of think of my grandma's house as a kid when they were burning a fire in the fireplace, and just laying on the floor and being mesmerized by how comfortable and beautiful that fire in the fireplace was. Not horrific fires scattered all over where we live, because those are not nice, but that sort of warm, fuzzy, comfy, the whole family's around the fireplace feeling. And I feel like if it's not that feeling of having family around you, it's that idea that maybe it's time for you to create that atmosphere for yourself in some way, shape, or form. Juno is also a secondary planet that is, pardon me, influencing Pisces right now. And Juno is referred to as the great consort. So he represents partnership and relationships, things like that. With Juno being retrograde, I feel like this week there may be not so much issues within your partnership, but it's sort of like serious talks having to happen where, change is presented, but one or the other of you may not be ready for the complete change. So maybe it's more of a need to negotiate on how quickly we're going to go through this change, kind of a thing. I also kind of feel like this is a conversation that keeps on coming up. And one of you is bringing it up and the other one is kind of dragging their feet. And so if you're the one that's dragging your feet, I think it's a good time to really just sort of take some time to meditate and understand why you're dragging your feet, not the surface of what you say, but really go deep into the feeling of why you want to drag your feet about taking the next step, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying because you shouldn't, you have to be taking the next step. I feel like this is part of your healing process for you in terms of your past relationships. And the truth is you should not move forward and take the next step until you do this work anyways. That way you're not taking this baggage into the next steps of the relationship that you're in, if that makes sense. So that is pretty much what I have for you, Karina. And that is pretty much what I have for everybody. I guess our readings for the week are complete. I think they went on a lot longer this time, but that's okay. I think we're trying to kind of get them in a direction that seems to flow smoothly, and give you guys the most information that I can while sticking towards what's going on astrologically during that particular week, because there is a lot of really crazy stuff that's going to be coming up here in the next couple of months. So with all that being said, you know who I am. I'm Melissa Bruce, the heavy metal psychic. Thank you for being on my reading list. And if you want to get on the list, click on the link below and become a site member to get started. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good week.